Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Quilt Stars as we quilt on together here with AQS. I am so happy to be coming from Quilt City, USA to talk with Bethanne Nemesh. Bethanne, how are you today?
I'm just great, thank you.
Oh,
Standing out in the
it's so beautiful there. You've got a sunny day. We've had a lot of rain in Paducah lately.
oh dear. Yeah, it's been really beautiful here. We've had a slow spring, so all of my spring flowers are still blooming. And my business name is White Arbor Quilting, so I thought I would show you guys where that comes from. So I actually have the white arbor in the front yard.
It's the
And
famous Ann Arbor. I didn't make that connection until just now.
yes, well, it makes it easy for when people are coming to my house for me just to say, and you should just look for the white arbor.
Perfect, perfect.
Right?
Well, will you give us a little tour of this lovely space?
I will, yeah, sure. I'm going to try not to fall up the stairs here. I have a little brick staircase, and I'm sort of walk backwards and have my white arbor, and things are just coming into bloom. So you can see I have a beautiful, oh my gosh, now of course the name just escaped me, the big pom-pom balls. Peonies, there you go, that's the one. And down here you see our little fountain that I put in with a little octopus in it, of course. And the poppies are getting ready to bloom. And here you can see my lilacs in the background are starting to pop open, and my iris are just opening up.
That is my dream front yard. You put in that fountain by yourself?
Oh yes, yes. So then
So
this is my
impressive.
blue, and of course, if you don't know, I'm the octopus girl. So I got my knocker. So we'll
Perfect.
come door and you come in the front. Here we go into the foyer. And from here, I have two spaces, and we're going to go into my office first, and I'm going to hand off the phone to my lovely assistant, who's going to let me stand with my hands free. So first we turn, and this is my office, and let me flip the camera. Here we go. And here we go. Here's my office. I'm just going to sort of stand over here, and she'll, fiddle around with it for you. So this is actually new. I just repainted this and sort of gave myself more storage, because as I begin more teaching and I have more products, it's just the storage aspect really is hard, and so this helps keep everything like put away really neatly. So I put this together before Christmas and repainted in here, and so I have a nice little display of some of my yarn couching jackets. And this one here is my newest one, and it's has two ravens. You can see here. I'll try to move this really close to the camera. So you can see that when I start my jackets, they're actually individual applique pieces that are yarn couched. And I do this either on my domestic or my long arm, depending on what's the most convenient for me. And so this jacket is going to feature a large flying raven, and then the smaller one is actually going to end up on the sleeve like this. But while I'm working, I just sort of, pin it onto my mannequin, and he just sort of lives there.
But
So
Bethanne, for people who don't know what yarn couching is, can you explain to the technique just briefly?
yes, so let's look at this jacket. So what yarn couching is traditionally it means to attach a piece of fiber to a surface with a second piece of thread. Okay, and so free motion machine yarn couching means that the yarn is running through the foot of my machine, and I can use either a domestic or long arm sewing machine. And then a clear thread is in the thread path of the machine. And so the clear thread sews down the yarn. So I simply can free motion quilt, any free motion design, in which case I'm actually kind of scribbling in the color to make the birds. And then the clear thread holds the yarn in place. So it's free motion machine quilting. It's just that I'm quilting and trapping a piece of yarn between the quilting and the surface of the whatever.
I just wanted to say, like, that you can tell even over Zoom that the texture is just really lovely. I wish I could reach out and touch it, but it's really neat what you've done with that.
Thank you. Yes, people are very, very interested in it. If we spin around here, you'll see this couch that I actually made. I made a couch of couching. And this was actually featured at your AQS Lancaster show last year. I had a private exhibition, and I had this there. So it's really a versatile thing. So obviously this is a a piece of home decor. I have wearable art, jackets, I've made purses, that kind of thing. I'll just kind of swing back over here. I just finished basically an online or DVD class. So for anyone who's interested, they're welcome to come to my website and get all the directions for that. But it's a 3-hour class, and it plays on a DVD, Xbox, whatever. But often people find the online class to be more convenient in today's day and age to take that. You can see a couple of other jackets, and I do 3-dimensional elements like these little anemones. This is my newest jacket. I made this specifically to go to Oregon, to hang out and go to the tide pools in Oregon. So that was where the imagery for this one came through. And this one also has a little piece on the, on the arm. So the raven jacket will be similar, that it'll have like an arm piece like this.
That's so creative. Can I ask you, when did you get started working on garments? Have you always worked on garments, or is that a more recent thing?
It's pretty recent. I don't make the garments though, so I actually have zero skill when it comes to sewing garments from scratch. So I actually enjoy thrifting my jackets. So all of my jackets are from places like Goodwill, that sort of thing, and then I embellish them after the fact. So it's just kind of fun to, whenever I pass a kind of a consignment style shop, to pop in and take a look and see if there's anything that's appropriate for that. And that's part of the treasure hunt, I guess you'd call it. I think I have about 10 to 15 of them now. It makes for a pretty nice little trunk show. So when I travel around the guilds and whatnot, it's, I have a whole little lecture on it at this point.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I've seen you wearing some of them around, and it's always really exciting to see what you've got. And I'm excited to see what you're doing with the yarn couching now, because the last time I saw you, you were still, I think, just kind of starting to put that out there.
I was really experimenting with it. They are a lot of fun to wear. Airport security is one of my favorite places to wear my snake jacket. I have one that has a snake that wraps around the whole arm, and that is a lot of fun. I don't have any trouble with social distancing when I wear the snake jacket. People
I'm
don't
sure.
Like it much.
I'm sure you get a lot of random checks through security when that happens.
And a surprising number of people have to be told not to touch me also, because it's really tactile. You want to touch it. And so I've had a few incidences of asking people not to pet me, which has been a little bit interesting. Yeah.
Well,
so would you like to see my studio? It's kind of under construction a little bit.
Yes, please. I'd love to. And I just have to comment that I love this space and how open and light and airy it is. That would be my absolute perfect
Thank you.
area.
This is one of my favorite components. So this is these are cast glass birds from New Zealand. I taught in New Zealand this past last summer. I guess their summer, so October for us. And I saw these birds, and I just loved them, but I didn't buy any because I just felt like they were really, really fragile. My husband was with me, and so he actually secretly got the name of the artist. And then for Christmas, I had this huge box filled with about 20 pounds of packing peanuts, and one by one, these birds came out of this huge box.
Oh my goodness.
And they're beautiful. They're by a designer out of New Zealand. He's based in Auckland, and it's Lukeke Designs. And they're just magnificent. They're in museums all over the world. And so I'm just really happy to have this little flock here. And then on this feature wall over here, this is a stencil that I've purchased and painted it. So this room, I guess, has kind of gone to the birds a little bit. So I have a kind of a bird theme going on in here. And then my long arm sewing machine has a octopus sticker on it. And so my working studio is kind of an underwater, has a more of an underwater feel because of the octopus on it. But right now I'm in transition. My long arm studio, my sewing studio for the last 20 years has been in my basement. But with the changes in the world, having to really alter all of our lives, I'm having to change the way I work, and I need to make my space more suitable to doing a lot more sort of digital online classes, and being able to offer and engage with my students in a way that doesn't allow me to travel right now. And so it was kind of like the final thing to help us all as a family make the decision to move my long arm studio upstairs. So we've always had a formal living room that it's useless because we don't need a formal living room. We do our living in another part of the house. And this is a ranch, so everything's on one level. And so that living room space, that formal living room, has gone through many evolutions just to meet the needs of the family. When my children were quite young, I purchased one of those plastic play park things with the slide and like the 2 or 3 levels. And we actually had an indoor playground when they were young. And then as they grew, it became kind of an arts and crafts room. And then most recently, it's been a media room for them and it's where we watch family movies, you know, couch, big TV, Xbox, all that stuff.
Sure.
And so we've now decided to move the media components downstairs to the basement where my studio was and move my studio up. And so it's almost done, and I have movers coming on Friday to move the long arm because I am not lifting that table up a set of stairs. My husband has joked for many years that this house can burn down, and we are still never rescuing that long arm. He'll buy me another one before we want to move it. So I'm essentially just sort of throwing money at strong people to take care of this problem for me at this point because I just will not do it. So so you have to use your imagination just a little bit because the long arm's not up yet, but we'll go in here. And so this is back in the foyer, and these drapes have always been here to sort of hide the mess of the media room, but soon this opening will be framed in and turned into a French doors with frosted glass, so it can be soundproof to some extent and just kept busy because no matter how much I try, you know, studios are always a mess, so I just don't want to have to walk past that every day. So we're going to go in. So this is the space. It's about 19 feet by 15 feet and has a fireplace here. And I'm still doing some construction, so I haven't quite picked up completely. But I just painted above the fireplace last night. So I still have a little bit of painting to do, but I've moved up my yarn collection here, which is just a beautiful rainbow. This little storage cabinet is, again, like shipping. It's like a shipping station for me. All of my rulers that I make are stored in here, and my fabric stash with ironing. This is a handmade sort of ironing board.
Oh, that's really convenient.
Yeah, it's really convenient. So right now I've got kind of jury-rigged lighting system here. I have an electrician coming to put in some overhead lights soon, but that's kind of dependent on a couple of factors. But I bolted together these guys and added some IKEA lights. There's a few details like hiding the wires that still need to be done. But I'm really happy with that. Here in the middle of the room where the couch is and this exercise bike, you have to imagine my 12-foot long arm after on Friday. So those will be moving downstairs, and then the long arm will move into this space. And then here in the corner, again, sort of less attractive storage, small threads. And this is another project that I'm working on. This is a mannequin, and I'm hand embroidering this underwater scene. This is sort of the yarn I'm working with right now. I'm hand embroidering the mannequin itself, and then it will get yarn couching elements hand sewn onto the outside of it. And it will be a coral reef. It'll be a healthy, colorful coral reef on one side, and then on the other side will be a bleached coral reef. So it's sort of a comment about, you know, mankind's impact on its environment. So I have a whole series of these planned, and this will be the first one.
Oh, that's really neat. I really like that idea. You know, more than just a piece. It's a commentary on kind of what's going on with the environment. So I really like that. And I have to say, with this space, I guess this makes sense to me because I know you, but it's amazing like how creative you yourself are, just painting the walls and putting the stuff together and just building it. It's really lovely and it's unique, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I just really believe in surrounding yourself with things that are inspirational because it sort of puts you in the right mindset to be creative. You know, if you surround yourself with creative things.
Absolutely.
This set of doors here goes to my covered patio, so that'll be so nice. I can open this, get fresh air, listen to the birds. And I have overhead skylights, which is great for natural lighting. And then here is my sort of sewing machine with little, you know, sewing components. And this is yet another jacket that's in the middle of construction. It doesn't have its piece yet, but what I've been working on is needle felting. I'm felting the bottom of this. It's kind of a pond, you can kind of see.
Yeah. So needle felting, is that new to you? Or, I mean, because I've not even heard of you doing that yet. I love that.
New, I mean, I've done it before, but I've never used it in a public way, but I've done it for my own self, I guess.
Sure.
There'll be a white heron here on the back eventually. So then the last component is this enormous blank wall. So you have to imagine foam boards that are going to be upholstered foam boards installed here for a huge design wall, which will be fantastic. And my plan is to move the curtains over this space so that I can protect whatever's on the design wall from the overhead light at the same time. Or if maybe I just don't want to show it and I have to be here filming or what have you, I'll be able to cover over my work in progress.
It's a really good idea.
Yeah, and so then the last piece here is my cutting table, which I literally put it together last night. I cut down a tall, it's a base cabinet with overhead shelving. So I cut it down, and so the base cabinet's on one side and the shelving is now on the other. And I made a tabletop with birch plywood, and I bolted it together this morning. So I'll be showing you that. But I put together a little flip here of some of my relatively recent works that I can give you a show to if you like that.
Yes, yeah? Please show us. And I have to say you're a woman of many talents, because I think I would have just bought a new cabinet. So
partly it's tough to do that right now, and I want it now.
I totally understand.
But also I already had the cabinet, and it's actually a little sentimental. So it's the first piece of furniture that I bought for my son to put his toys in when he was a toddler. And so as our needs have changed, I've changed the color of the cabinet. So I don't know, I just seemed nicer to be
special
than try to get rid of it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, let's do a little flip here. So this is my my heron yarn couching quilt, and it has a lot of really dense background quilting as well on it. You can see my lovely assistants being so awesome here.
I remember the first time I saw that quilt, and I was so excited to tell everyone, it's Bethanne's, because it was so different than what we'd seen from you.
It is really different. I don't believe in keeping my feet in cement when it comes to like my style, so whatever inspiration strikes me is where I want to go.
That's wonderful.
And now this one is the first piece of yarn couching I did that really made me excited to do more of it. And so I've learned a lot since since I made this, and so each and every project I work on just helps me mature more and more in terms of the media that I'm using.
Absolutely.
And this one here is the yellow, they're saffron crested cockatoos, and these are from Australia, and this is from a picture that I took while I was teaching in Australia. And also, it features the really heavy, densely quilted background as well. And this is the only quilt that I have on display in my home on a wall right now. I don't display my show quilts because they're made of silk, and I've noticed that they're really prone to fading, even with indirect light. So this is the only one that's hanging on the wall in my home.
Sure.
So then the rest of these quilts, just stand over there. Yes, thank you. The rest of these quilts are class samples, and many of these classes are classes that I have taught for AQS and will teach again in the future as well. So this is a mandala quilt made completely with the line of rulers that I manufacture, which allow for these beautiful curves. And this features the fancy feathers that I've taught for you many times. You can see combined with the background fill here. So this, when I teach this class, I have a few different feather classes that I've taught for you, but this particular style of feather, this dragon fin feather, is often featured in a class that I teach for you called From Fast to Fancy, or sometimes I teach just a fancy feathers class, which is more about these really exotic things.
I want to pause for just a second and mention, first of all, that's a class sample. I can't, I would put that in a museum. But I want to say that your rulers that you manufacture are available on our website. We're really happy to have those on Shop AQS.
Thank you. And, yes, several of the most popular ones are available with you. I have, I think 8, and you guys, I believe, carry the 3 of the most popular versions. But yes, the ones that made that quilt are available through the AQS shop.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Okay, what else do we have?
So this is a border sample class, a ruler work class, using those same rulers. the rulers that this is from is Lily Lines 1 and Lily Lines 2. And both of those rulers are available through the AQS shop. And then, and I also have an additional 6 rulers that I carry independently from that.
That silk is so beautiful in the light, the way it catches the light.
No, it does look like silk, but it's not. It's actually acetate satin, and it's wonderful for class samples and just absolutely terrible from a marking perspective. And I would never make anything meant to be like an heirloom piece out of this, but for a class sample, it really shimmers nicely.
Oh, it does. It's beautiful. Totally fooled me.
Yeah, it really is. But it actually is not that much fun to mark on because it bleeds so badly. So you have to be the kind of person who doesn't need a lot of marking if you want to use it.
Sure.
This is similar class sample project. Again, this is borders and a mandala in the middle, sort of a combination of those previous 2. But again, I teach a variety of classes using my rulers, and so these are sort of class samples from that. I have those on the things that I'm capable of teaching with AQS. So hopefully we return to that at some point. And then this class I've taught for AQS many times. This is my class from A to Zen, and it's a background filler class of all these textures inspired by the real world. So for example, this particular design was H, inspired by hourglass, like the sand in an hourglass, kind of trickling down. Let's see. So this design is like F for feathers, or R for raindrops, or D for dandelion puffs. And so I have, the class goes through the entire alphabet, and there's one beautiful quilting design for each class or each letter of the alphabet. And then I also have a book that has 132 of these designs. So you can see, and I'll have my assistant stand back here and show that whole thing. So it's a lot of different designs that I do.
There's so much creativity in that class, and I know that it's one that people really enjoy because there's a little bit of everything. So it's really cool to have it.
There really is. And I teach the class for AQS both as a long arm class and domestic sewing machine class. So that's really nice for everybody. And then the last thing I'll show you today is my project for today. So this is just a piece of fabric here, but I actually just stained the top of my custom table this morning, and I have one more coat of stain to put on it. So it's not quite done, but you can see that I stained the top of it this morning. And this is stencils, and it's like fossils. So
yeah,
this would be like
I can totally recognize.
So this is like a fossils, and then this will get one more coat of a brown stain with polyurethane on it, so it'll get darker. And this is where my cutting mat will go, and I have a stool, and it's perfect for me now because you can see how I'm so tall that I need a taller surface to work on. So I'm happy to have a cutting surface now that's basically counter height.
Yeah, absolutely, because I know what it's like to have to bend over shorter tables, and it will kill you. So
it does. It can. Yeah.
Idea.
So you can see the studio is kind of under construction. I have more details and cleaning up to do, but I'm really excited to move to this space. It's bright. It's got natural light. It's big enough to walk around. In my old studio, my long arm had 20 inches on the back side and 26 inches on the front side of me to move. And then to go from my design wall to my sewing machine, I had to walk around the whole long arm. So this is going to be a really nice change. There's going to be about 8 feet between my long arm and my design wall. So I'll be really happy, so there's a few things to wait on. I have to wait on the doors, but it's going to be a functional space here by the weekend.
Oh my goodness, that's so exciting. I know you're excited to move into it. And thank you so much for showing
I'm less excited to do all of the, it's amazing how much, I'm trying to think of a polite word and I can't, for the stuff that gathers.
The stuff, sure.
20 years of having your studio in one place, the number of bins and cubbies and drawers that hasn't seen the light of day in so long, that I'm realizing that just, if you haven't touched it in 20 years, it's gotta go.
Yeah. I'm feeling so well.
My back porch right now is kind of the storage place for this giant game of Tetris that we're playing around here. Trying to shift things and
from one room to the other. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's because it's a huge media complex, with the couches and everything, and shifting it downstairs to where I had so much storage. But the plan is to put more cupboards in downstairs so that a lot of the samples and like my trunk show and things like that can stay downstairs in the basement behind cupboard doors, and then my studio space here will just be like the active sewing kind of things.
Well, wonderful. And so I want to ask you, um,
Sure.
if you have it, we're hoping to inspire the folks who are at home, who are kind of stuck in the house right now, who are making quilts in their own home. And what kind of advice would you give to them to stay, excited and interested in what they're working on and to try something new?
Well, I often talk about creativity in my lectures, and one of the things that I find the most helpful is to keep kind of a design file, and I do this physically as well as digitally. So Pinterest is it's a rabbit hole from which you have to be very careful, otherwise you don't escape from it. But it is kind of a nice place to start. And I keep a design folder that's a real thing that I glue stuff into, and a digital folder that says there's something about the design or I'm inspired by the color. You can make whatever criteria that you want. And sort of whenever something just kind of, you say to yourself, wow, that is really cool, I just stick it in those files. And so by constantly curating that moment in your brain where you say, ooh, that's really cool, go look at that. That's like your inner muse kind of going, like poke, 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 that,
Yeah, I've heard of this.
nudge, nudge, nudge. And so when you are in the habit of, curating those types of things and putting them in a file, and then going to that file and flipping through all those things that, kind of poked at your interest over time, I generally find that it helps prime your brain a little bit for being receptive to creative inspiration, because you've kind of taken the half steps of anytime something interests you, like in a magazine or whatever, that it just kind of is helpful. And so if you need a place to start, you just think about, what things do I love? Maybe you want to look at garden design, or maybe you want to look at modern quilts. And it's not so much an effort to copy people at all, but sometimes if you see stuff and you're like, ooh, that's, maybe there's like a piece of the design or a shape or the way that a quilting element was handled, or a composition that you thought was cool. Maybe it's like maybe you think the quilt is not that great, but you think that the balance and the composition is really great. So that's a perfect example of a way to, put that into your design file, to say and remember, gosh, I really liked the way that this quilter handled this composition of a heavy element and a light element together. And by doing that, you kind of keep your brain engaged in the creative process. And so I've done that for years. And I honestly, we're home now, we're 8 weeks home, and I haven't even watched TV yet.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so impressive. I've watched so much TV.
Yeah. My husband and I will watch movies together. That doesn't really count, but like, I'm not sitting around wondering what to do next, So on Thursdays, I'm doing an art therapy Thursday on Facebook Live every week, and anyone's welcome to join. There's no fee or anything. And I'm doing like a watercolor class.
White Arbor
White
Quilting.
Arbor
Can I find
Quilting.
it?
Yeah, it's White Arbor Quilting, Bethanne Nemesh.
Okay.
On Facebook. That's my business page. And all of my my back weeks are there, and I'm just teaching people to watercolor paint. And so that requires me to get ready for class, and what am I doing next? And so I'm spending my week painting, prepping for what I'm doing. And of course the studio design is keeping me busy, and and I stay with yarn couching and have an unmentionable number of blank jackets waiting for their future lives to be incorporated into my trunk show. So, I'm definitely staying as busy as my family lets me. Yeah.
That's perfect. I love that. And we've been asking people what they're doing to stay busy, and I didn't even have to ask after seeing everything that you're working on right now. To move in the house is wonderful, and I can't wait. You'll have to send me a picture of your completed space once it's done.
Thank you. Yes. Well, hopefully it won't take much longer. There's just a few more details that I just can't do on my own. So, yeah.
And I wanted to mention, you did show us your DVD for the yarn couching. We also
Yes.
have an online iQuilt class of yours called "If You Can Feather, You Can Freehand." And
Yeah, I'll show
um,
you here. Here we go. I
oh,
have it right
oh my God, you're
here.
so prepared. So we have that online. You can watch iQuilt, you can rewind, pause, take notes, whatever
Yep.
you like. But if you prefer it on the DVD, you can order that also on the Shop AQS site. And so I can tell you, Bethanne is an amazing teacher, and you'll learn a lot from her. And you can kind of see how she does what she does.
Absolutely. That class is really, really great. And it's a good example of all of my teaching. So if you've ever been curious of what the way that I teach, I always teach all my classes, whether they're easy or hard. I teach with sequential learning and skill building. And so I always start with something that's very small and very attainable, and then we add to that. And that's true for everything that I've ever done. It's just part of the way that it's the way that I learn. And I feel like it's helpful for people to learn that way. And
Yeah.
so in the class, the iQuote class, I'm teaching people to make freehand natural shapes like flowers and leaves, or really take a look at any design like wedding bells or Christmas ornaments and break it apart into some simple thread paths to do free motion machine quilting. And I guess you could say if you looked at a bird in flight, you might say, I could never free motion quilt that without drawing it out in detail. But I'm teaching people how to break that apart into an odd number of thread passes. And my students are always happily surprised at how easy it is once you start to see, that the way that you free motion quilt a flower and the way that you would free motion quilt a hummingbird are actually exactly the same. Because you just have to learn to break that apart. And so that's what the class is really about. It's not show quilting. It's meant to be functional, everyday, everyday quilting. So it's a mistake to think that you take that class and come out of there knowing how to show quilt like I do, because that's not what that class is about. Yeah,
Well,
it's
we have
about,
to start somewhere. Absolutely. And being able to break it up in sequential learning like that keeps it from being overwhelming. So I think it would be good. Can beginners who are just learning to free motion quilt, after they've got the basics, can they check that out?
Absolutely. Yeah. Once you're familiar with your machine and you've kind of gotten past the loops and swirls stages of quilting, then yes, it's a surprising amount of people. And it is called, if you can feather, you can freehand. But I'm actually really showing people the basics of feathering first. And then it's transforming the thread path of a feather. So like if you understand how we make a feather by moving down a spine, you lift up and you make the feather teardrop shape, right?
Mhm.
But based on that foundation movement, you can turn that into a daffodil or whatever. It's the replacement of the muscle memory, what that class is all about. And it's really perfectly good for people who are, I would say, confident beginners. It's not going to teach you how to control your speed versus your hands, that kind of thing. You do need to be a little bit confident, but once you're a confident free motion machine quilter, then absolutely you'll get a lot out of that class.
That's wonderful. And I know that everybody is out there kind of looking for what to do next. And so if you're wanting more to try, something new to try, that would be a great class to get you started.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I have I have a blog and I have a website. You can find it with my name, Bethanne Nemesh. You can also go to whitearborquilting.com. And I do a lot of like little free tutorials, especially with my rulers. So people who have purchased the rulers that I manufacture either through myself or through you guys. I have a series of basically how-to videos, either quilting with them or using them, on paper as design work. One of the biggest questions I get about the rulers is, are they okay to use on domestic sewing machines? And I have a number of really wonderful domestic sewing machine quilters tell me that they're very happy using the rulers domestically. So even though I'm a long armor and I design them for myself, they work really well on both styles of machines.
That's good. That's good to know, because I know a lot of people are trying to, figure out how to quilt their quilts at home on their domestic machine. You
Yeah.
might have a long arm or even a long armor that you send things to. So that's good to know that they're adaptable. And I know that you teach
Yeah.
on both machines.
I do.
And so I'm looking forward to the next time that I get to see you again and have you teaching for us again in person. I hope it's not too long from now.
Thank you. Well, as of right now, my hopes are that the new fall Paducah show will be the spot. But of course, we all have to let health and safety drive those decisions. So, if that doesn't work out, then I'll see you again at some point in the future.
Yes, and I'll look forward to it whenever it is. And I'm really excited to have everyone here in Paducah. And I want to thank you for showing us around and showing us
Sure.
quilts. It's been so much fun to talk to you. And I want to let everyone else know that, if you like this video, make sure you click like and you share it with your friends using the buttons below. And if you haven't liked the American Quilter Society Facebook page, make sure to do that so you will be able to see these videos when they come out. Check out Bethanne at White Arbor Quilting. You're on Facebook, right? And also your website is
Yep.
whitearborquilting.com.
That's it.
Perfect. Well,
Yep.
thank you again. I hope everyone at home stays inspired, has gotten something from this video to make you want to keep quilting on together with us. And from Quilt City, USA, this has been Liz and Bethanne. Thank you so much.
Bye from Allentown, Pennsylvania. Bye-bye.
Bye.